Welcome to another episode of Captain's Log. This week, being it's the 25th episode of my show, I decided to do something special, and I got together with Vance Major, producer at No Budget Productions, and he's the guy who gave me a shot at this. And I decided to interview him, and which I found out is actually a rare occurrence indeed, since Vance rarely gives interviews about himself. But I thought that this would be something worthwhile looking into. And Vance and I sat down recently, and we did a video chat over Zoom, and I managed to record the session. And I got enough material during the session to actually break it up into 3 different episodes. So for this week and the next 2 weeks after, I will be featuring the interview that I did with Vance, and also hopefully getting some testimonials, if you will, or as I like to call it, major scuttlebutt, play on words there with Vance's last name and the Navy term for gossip, if you will. But anyway, I like to call this interview an interview with Vance Major, the man, the myth, the legend, and also he's been called the Stan Lee of fan films. And after seeing all the films he's been in, I can see why. So without any further ado, let's get into the first part of the interview, and here we go.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
All right, Vance, I'm sure everybody would like to know, where are you from originally?
Well, kind of from all over. I grew up as a kid on my grandma's ranch. It was what I feel like was the 100-acre woods from like Winnie the Pooh.
Right.
It went forever and ever and ever on. So as a little kid, I kind of played my own Star Trek adventures. Because I don't really have any friends. When your closest neighbor is 2 miles away. Right. That was in a place called Arnold, Nebraska.
Okay, where is that exactly?
It's about 45 minutes from North Platte, Nebraska.
Oh, okay, sure.
And we lived there for about 2 years, and then we moved to Port Orchard, Washington.
Oh yes, yes.
So anyone in my films that knows the star Port Orchard will get that reference. Because again, in a lot of my films, I put Easter eggs in, which are nods to other things in my life.
Right.
And we lived there for about 3 years.
Okay.
When I was younger, before then, I lived in Chula Vista, California.
Sure.
Before the ranch. And then after my dad had retired from the Navy, we moved to Junction City here. So we moved all around because my dad was in the military. So I'm not really from anywhere, but sadly, the last place I moved was here, which I was like, I'm not going to live in Junction forever. I'm going to get out of there. And yeah, I'm still here. So.
And
Junction
when was
City.
that?
1993, we moved to Junction City, and been here ever since.
I'm not going to be here forever. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, where were you born then?
A little town called Milton, Florida.
Oh, yeah, you have been all over then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was kind of like the same thing growing up. My dad was a teacher, but we kept finding different places where he liked teaching better. So it was like all over the state of Wisconsin.
Like you're playing hot potato, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So when people ask me where I'm from in Wisconsin, it's like, what part of my life are you want to talk about?
Right. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how old are you exactly then?
41.
41?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So obviously you have a family. You've been married. When did you get married to Mona? I mean, how long have you guys been together all together?
We got together. We met at Dairy Queen. We started working at Dairy Queen together when I was 18.
Okay.
Now we went to high school together. We saw each other in the hall, but I really didn't know her. She didn't know me.
Right.
I wouldn't have been able to pick her out of a lineup, vice versa. She, wouldn't, we didn't know each other. We didn't run with the same crowd or anything.
Right.
But we met each other at Dairy Queen.
Okay.
A few months after that, we started dating. And then about 6 months after that, we moved out. And about 2 years after that, we got married.
Oh, cool. So and you're coming up on which anniversary now?
Now you're putting me on blast. Oh hell, we've been together since '98. We started dating in '98. We got married in 2000.
Wow.
22 years we've been married. 23 and a half years we've been together. Something like that. So,
wow, that's cool. And
over half my life. So,
and I remember when I first met you. I remember Mona was actually pregnant with Royce at the time, because I kept seeing these posts of you. This is going to be Royce's room. This is what it's going to look like. I remember the Avengers and the DC comic characters on the wall and everything. Does he still have them up?
Oh yeah, I could take you now to the room. It's still that way. Oh yeah, he's big. He's big into comics. His favorite hero is Robin, which he's going to be this Halloween.
Okay.
We're going to be making in fact, after Halloween, he's going to be making a Batman fan film with me, where he's Robin. I'm going to be Batman, even with the beard. Because the film's going to be for kids, so it doesn't really matter if I'm in the beard or not. But he's excited to get to go beat up my friends. But he loves superheroes. He loves Robin. His second favorite hero, I would say, would be Spider-Man. Loves Spider-Man. But he loves all those heroes.
Okay. And he's what, in preschool now, or?
Yeah, his second year of preschool. Yeah, because you go through 2 years of preschool, then kindergarten, which was news to me. I didn't know he went through 2 years of preschool, because back when I was a kid, they just stuck you in, kindergarten. That was about it. You know?
There was no such thing as pre-K when I was went to school. In fact, I was held back a year because up in Wisconsin at that time, you had to have your 5th birthday before a certain date, and then otherwise you'd have to wait until the next year to enter kindergarten.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned, you and I work together, and we work over at Smithfield and, meat processing plant. How long have you actually been there?
8 years, 8.5 years. I've been in my current spot. Next month will be 5 years.
Okay.
As the data tracker. Before then, I was driving forklift, and then I was doing spice, and then I was working the front line. So, in the spot that I'm doing now, it's a very nice, comfortable job where I'm data tracking. So and you kind of fail upwards, do. So, but it's a nice job. The company really takes care of its people, especially during the whole COVID thing.
Right, I remember.
Where sanitation, it's a very clean place. They
They
pay
take
very
it
well.
seriously. I can verify on that.
Oh yeah, it's a great company to work for. Great money. The thing about it is, and it not kissing the company's ass or anything. Before I went to Smithfield, I was like so many people out there working 2 jobs, sleeping in my car between jobs.
Yes.
Sometimes having to put on deodorant because you didn't have time to run home to take a shower, so you didn't smell like crap.
Right. Or sausages.
Yeah. And, sleeping in your car so you can get, just a little bit more sleep, because if you go home, then you're going to be wired and not going to get any sleep before your next, shift of work.
Right.
The one thing I like about working at Smithfield is, it may be long hours, but at least when you're off.
Right.
You're not going to have to worry about someone calling you in. Hey, so and so called in. You got to come in. well, I got time with family. I can't really do it. No, you better come in now.
Right.
You don't have to worry about that. You come in, you work your shift, you go home. That's it. So it is long hours, but it's at least when you're off. And again,
Right.
like I said, they treat us very, very well.
Oh, yes, they do.
So I can't complain.
Yeah, I remember personally during the COVID thing you mentioned, they offered those of us who were, shall we say, at a certain level of life experience and the chance to stay home because we were in one of those high risk groups for catching COVID. And while it was nice being home, I found myself getting bored after a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get back to Star Trek. You mentioned earlier that you liked to play with Star Trek when you were growing up and stuff. How did you get interested in Star Trek?
Well, it was basically my mom, she cleaned. My mom was a housewife because my dad was military.
Right.
And he was more old school mentality in that way of thinking. And his mentality was stay at home with Vance.
Right.
Don't get a job. We don't
Right.
need the money. But she liked to get a little extra on the side and clean our neighbor's house.
Oh, okay.
Well, we went across the street to clean. Her name was Kathy, to clean their house, and believe me, it needed it. But she was a big Star Trek fan, big Michael Keaton Batman fan. I think she was in love with Michael Keaton. But she had a Star Trek For the Voyage Home VHS tape.
VHS.
And I remember watching the opening trailer for Star Trek The Next Generation on that VHS tape.
Oh, okay.
And I was instantly in love with, what is this?
Right.
And I remember watching Star Trek The Next Generation on my parents' black and white TV show.
Wow.
Yeah, in the kitchen. Like, I remember watching that, it was a small little 8-inch black and white TV screen.
Right.
And, to me, like, you're seeing the visual effects of the Enterprise D stretching and warp and just,
right.
And the stars in the warp field, to an 8-year-old kid, that, that's like Star Wars for me.
Right.
Because even a television budget, that's just like, wow.
Right.
And when you see Data, that's a robot, wow. And you see Worf on the bridge, that's a Klingon. Oh my God, is that a real alien? Like, my God.
Yeah, I remember thinking, what's a Klingon doing on a starship, on a Starfleet vessel when I first saw Generations or Gen. I don't know.
So those things, and I watched a little bit of Star Trek with my mom, so I knew what a Klingon was. But to me, those things, I was just blown away. I was interested. I was like, wait, we're now at peace with the bad guys. We're now at peace.
Exactly. I remember.
And those things, like seeing the fact that we had progressed,
right,
and we're now moving, like those things fascinating. I wanted to get engulfed in that world, and then seeing Wesley Crusher, kid on the bridge. Wait, they've got kids on the ship now? Someone like me?
Right.
So I daydreamed. I sat in class and drew pictures of my own comic strips of what it would be like to be on the Enterprise. And I failed classes daydreaming about being on Star Trek and what it would be like to walk around on the ship.
Right.
So to me, that's, thank you, Star Trek, for making me fail school. You are the reason I now work at Smithfield.
Yeah.
But to me, it kicked that brain, that center in my brain of imagination. I still love Batman. I still love Star Trek. I still love, man. I've got, my He-Man action figure still.
There you go.
I'm a big kid, and I've got a large part of that to do with, keeping the imagination centers of my brain going. And that the world we live in now, thanks to things like Comic-Con and streaming, we can watch our favorite shows and nostalgia. it's wonderful, you know.
Right.
But that's what got me into Star Trek was that little segment on the Star Trek 4 Voyage Home tape.
Yes.
It still gets me. It still gets my, you know, it still gives me goosebumps. When we did Melbourne for the first time, we did a promo, and I did it very much in that theme of Star Trek 4 The Voyage Home. It's a very old promo that we put on YouTube, but I very much had it done where we went through each of the cast members and we had a voiceover that was very much like that. The ship fly by same way.
That would be cool.
Yeah, and I was inspired by that because I wanted to recreate that feeling for our show for that.
Yeah. Okay, so now I remember meeting you at Smithfield while you're doing your tracking job, and we hit it off. You know, we just started talking, and somehow the conversation drifted into Star Trek. Imagine that. And I remember you coming up to me one time on the line. I forget, it was probably line 8, but you asked me how big a Star Trek fan I am. And I remember that very distinctly because all of a sudden, years later, here I am hosting my own Star Trek video blog. Been in 20 some, maybe 30 fan films with you.
Right.
And I'm the star of, and I'm not trying to be egotistical, but I'm the star of a web series, The Lexington Adventures. And that's how it all started for me. How did it all start for you in fan films?
I went down, going back about 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago. I went to Starbase Studios in Oklahoma City.
Yes.
At the time, I had been doing for Facebook. I'd been doing a lot of advertisements, which I still do from time to time for people when they ask me, because I still have a lot of connections with, you know, people,
Right.
various people.
Okay.
You know, so I was asked if I could share the Starbase Studio page, you know, or in group, and I was like, sure, you know, it's no problem. And when I asked, you know, inquired about what it was, you know, he showed me some pictures and whatnot. And I was like, oh, cool, you got a bridge. He said, yeah, we're actually shooting this weekend. And I was like, oh man, that would be really great to see sometime. He said, well, we're shooting, you want to come down? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. So I called Mona and said, hey, you know, they're shooting this weekend. Can we go? It's only like 4 hours away. Because I'd love to go down there and see. She said, yeah, we can go. So we traveled and went down there. And while I was down there taking a look, you know, of course, I sat in the captain's seat, you know, took the pictures people usually do. Because of course, you know, that would be good advertising for what these people had wanted, you know, for their thing. And I thought, you know, at the time I thought this is going to be a kind of a one and done deal. Well, Michael King, who is in charge of Starship Valiant, the producer of that show, you know, saw me while I was there. I never approached him, never saw him, but he had seen me while I was there, and he reached out to me while I was back at work that following Monday, and he sent me a message on Facebook, and with just a message of, would you like to be in my film? And I was like, what, like porn? Like, what are we talking about? Because I didn't know what he was talking about. And he said, no, I'm the producer of Starship Valiant.
Oh,
would you like to be in my film? And I was like, oh, all right, I guess. What would you want me to do? He said, well, you look like you would be a great engineer. Like you look like you would, you know, you look like you are very knowledgeable in fixing things, which is funny because I don't even know how to change the oil in my car. Like Mona does that for me. So I don't know, you know, I thought that was really funny, but I was like, sure, I'd love to, but I don't have any acting experience. I don't know the first thing about acting.
Okay.
And he was like, well, that's okay. You know, none of us do. You know, we're in it for fun. but we'd love to have you. I was like, sure, I'd love to do it. I used to, I used to play Star Trek as a kid, and I do all the parts,
Right.
as kids usually do. But that's about as far as acting as I've had. But I'd love, I'll give it 100%.
Okay.
That's how I got my start.
Okay. So now we've been talking about Star Trek fan films. Have you done any other kind of fan films? Have you ever been in them? I know I've done a couple with you, but what other ones have you done?
You mean regular films or
regular films?
I've had three zombie films.
Yeah, I was in one of them. I remember the maple syrup.
We've done. I've been in. I've done 3 zombie films. One, the first one was Dead Inside. The second one was Corner of Longview, and the third one was Voice of the Dead.
All right.
And then I have a superhero film called Pursuit.
Okay.
And that's more of an RLSH film, a real life superhero film.
Okay.
For those that don't know what RLSH means.
Right.
So those are films that I've done. Then I've done a short little vignette type thing about heroics, which was done at our factory, which was done for COVID.
Right.
The definition of a hero.
Oh, sure, I remember that one.
Yeah, and that was more of a thing. Just kind of standing up for, hey, in this time of crisis, this is one of the people that, and then we've done several music videos based on our stuff.
Okay.
So I've produced a lot of things, and that's also based on the work that I've done.
All right. Yeah. So basically, you're kind of a renaissance man of film or fan films or whatever. Plus, you mentioned you've got that Batman film coming up too. As I remember, you're working on the script right now, or you haven't even started. Maybe you've been.
No, I've worked on. I'm working on the script currently. I have. The way most people do it is they work on a script and then they go to the people and then
Right.
That's not how I do things.
Right.
I do things a lot out of order.
Yeah, I remember.
I usually go to people and then I start writing just because at this point after 108 fan films plus films on the side, I feel like I have the credibility to say, hey, this is what I want to do. You want to do it? At this point, I don't need a script. My credibility goes that far. Most people are usually like, "Yep, I'm interested." But no, I've got a partial script, and I do have actors cast.
Right.
But I do have a general direction. I know the story idea I want to go. It's just a matter of sitting down and actually doing it. I do have a Ghostbuster film that, again, I have most of the script planned out, mapped out, partial written. And like all the props and everything are paid for, gotten. And yeah, it's I got several projects upcoming, and then more Star Trek on the way.
Oh, cool. So yeah, I remember you've got that fundraiser going for your latest Star Trek film, the one where you wearing the mullet.
Well, that's the GoFundMe is for not only the Star Trek films, but it's for all the films. That's why it's for I asked for, usually my GoFundMes are for about 1,000. This one's for 2,000 because I wanted it to be, since it's for the final set of Constar films that I'm doing to wrap up what I have. It's also for the other films that I want to finish and get through.
Now, I've written a script for Lexington Adventures, and it took me I was struggling to come up with the story. Of course, I went with the idea, you write what you know, and my script was about family. And you got over 100 fan films going. Where do you come up with your ideas for the films?
Most of them come from my life experiences.
Right.
A lot of the critiques of my films are they'll say this is as close to Star Trek as you can get. The others will say this is not Star Trek at all. And my response is always, you're both right. And the reason being is,
all right. So I think we were talking about the first fan film that you had been in, and how Michael King had reached out to you to appear in his film rather. And you said something like a porn film or whatever.
well, yeah, the first film that I appeared in was actually Starship Valiant Legacy. And I was just a voiceover in his, because it was I came at the very tail end of that project, so I was just a voiceover in that film. And it wasn't until about maybe 9 months later, maybe it was like a year and a half later.
Right.
I'm not really sure. It's been so long; it's all kind of a blur to me. But I came in the special edition for that film.
Oh, okay.
And they had built the sick bay segment, which is what he always kind of envisioned for that character to kind of come in and kind of bump heads with Bishop, and be like, "Hey, man, we got to get the heck out of here."
Right.
You know, everyone's falling apart. And Bishop kind of be like, "No, we're not leaving." You know. So that was what we had for that scene, and it was a great scene. But before that, we actually had filmed a segment for Starship Baratus, and it was a Starship Valiant and Starship Ajax crossover, which never came. It never saw the light of day. And we shot that before I shot the thing for Valiant, for that sickbay scene. And I actually was able to acquire the footage and put that in the film, The Valhalla Stone. And that's why you see in the Valhalla Stone, you see even Art, when he takes the quad lithium, he has those flash forwards from the cage area. He flash forwards to the bridge stuff. All that bridge stuff is the stuff we shot for Baratus. That's how I was able to incorporate that footage, because it's very jumbled, but that's how I was able to get the footage and make it make sense.
Yeah, I was wondering when I saw that thing. Well, my first impression of Valhalla was, wow, this is weird. And then I saw the different bridge scenes or whatever else. I was going, where did he get that? So now you explain that. All right, and now it's time to hear from some other people about their thoughts on Vance.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Hello there, Zam here from No Budget Productions as well as NerdTube, and this is the story of how I got to meet Vance. On my YouTube channel NerdTube, we do fan film reactions, a lot of popular pop culture stuff, Star Wars, Star Trek, Indiana Jones, the Marvel, MCU, DC stuff, and other stuff in between. But one of the films that came across us was a film called Minard 2, and I thought to myself, let's have a review of this. It seems to be pretty popular on YouTube. I'm sure it's a good fan film. Myself and cousin Cheeto, when we watched this film, we didn't like it, and we were really negative in our review of this fan film. We didn't, hold back when it came to our opinions on that fan film. Now, word got round about our review, and a lot of Vance's colleagues got back to us, and we had a little bit of a back and forth between them. And then finally, we got a hold of Vance, or Vance got a hold of us, and we had a chance to communicate and maybe, put water under the bridge and come to some sort of understanding between each other. And we did, and we got to find out more about each other. Vance and I are quite similar when it comes to our ideologies and what we believe in. Funnily enough, even though I can come across as a bit of an arsehole, Vance is a far better guy than that, and he's somebody who's quite inspiring and makes me want to be a better person, because he keeps his shit together and he's a good judge of character, I think. And when you are around somebody like that, somebody I can relate to like that, somebody who gives chances, the last thing you want to do is, disappoint this person and squander those chances, so to speak. Vance has let me join No Budget Productions. I'm part of that team now, as well as cousin Cheeto. I upload videos on a regular basis, and he's got more exposure to my channel, and I thank him for that. Vance is a very generous man who has tried to give his time to lots of people. He's creative as well. He makes his YouTube videos, his fan films, that is, Pizza Roll Diaries and all of that. And he's doing stuff with his son as well. He seems to be an excellent father too. Every time I see him on social media, he's posting pictures of him and his son. He loves his son very dearly. And that also warms my heart to know what sort of man he is, because he seems to be a very good father. Vance, as we would say in the United Kingdom, is a diamond geezer. And to know someone like Vance is just a good thing generally. I've spoken to him, we've exchanged information about our personal lives to get to know each other better. And he's gone through a lot of shit, and the last thing he needs is more shit from me. And the opportunities he's given me to get more exposure to my channel is just something I shouldn't expect from somebody who was just a stranger prior to that opportunity being given to me just a couple of weeks earlier. So he's a very generous man with his time. He's eager to listen to people as well as give advice. You know, he's just a lovely human being. And that's why I'm very happy to know Vance and remain friends with Vance. If you don't know Vance, you should know Vance. And if you do know Vance, don't take advantage of Vance. He's a very good person and somebody you shouldn't be taking the piss out of. I love the guy. He's a great friend. I hope this has given you an idea of what I think of him and what sort of person he is. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Zam, for that very wonderful testimonial, or as I like to call it, scuttlebutt about Vance. And that's it for this week. Tune in next week for part 2 of my interview with Vance Major. And as always, may the great bird of the galaxy bless your planet.